Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. What is the relied upon Shafi'i view regarding the duration of the Maghrib prayer time? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So the Shafi'i school has okay, let's just go straight into the Mu'tamad, the relied upon view. The relied upon view is that Maghrib time enters the moment the disk of the sun disappears from the horizon. So the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. When the disk of the sun disappears from a flat horizon on the west, and the disk is completely gone, away from the horizon, so we cannot see that disk any longer. You can still see light, of course. Then that's the moment that Maghrib's waqt has entered. Then Maghrib's waqt will continue until that twilight then disappears. So that light that remains behind after the disk of the sun disappears, that light dwindles, it becomes darker and darker and darker. And once that twilight disappears from the sky, and the sky is now black, right? So the red twilight is gone and the sky is now black. That is the moment at which Isha, the waqt of Isha, commences. Now, in terms of duration, this is generally going to be between 1 hour, 1 hour 5 minutes, and 1 hour 20 minutes, right? There's different situations that may lead to different durations, but that is essentially the duration that we are looking at. Now, I imagine that the question is based upon the fact that in the Shafi'i school, there's some difference of opinion because of Imam Shafi'i's Qadim and Jadid views. Now, I've explained this before in the past, and it usually takes up a bit of time to elaborate on the difference between the two. So I'll try to summarize it in a bit of a more concise way, inshallah. Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, he developed his fiqh throughout his life, and at the last point of his development, he then moved to Misr, to Egypt, where he taught his madhab as we understand it today, as we know it today. The entire madhab that he taught there is referred to as the madhab jadid, the final views of Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala. Now, naturally, because he revised his views based on what he had learned and based on his thought development, rahimahullah ta'ala, some of his views that he previously held were changed. It's not all of his views that were changed, but some of his views. Now, when there's a difference between his older opinions and his final views, we refer to those differences with the terms Qadim and Jadid. The Qadim view of Imam Shafi'i and the Jadid view of Imam Shafi'i. Or we just say the Qadim and the Jadid. Now, generally speaking, as is logical, the Jadid views, the final views of Imam Shafi'i, those are the views upon which the madhab is based, not according to his older views. There are a handful of exceptions. There's about 15 cases in which the madhab goes back to the Qadim view of Imam Shafi'i, the older views and not the latest views. Why? Because the scholars of the madhab who understood the usul, the Islamic legal theory of the Shafi'i school, who understood the methodology of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala and understood how to apply that methodology, they found that within these instances, Imam Shafi'i was correct in his older view, or rather he was more correct in his older view and more accurate than in his latest views. Only a handful of cases, again, about 15 or so. And when this happens, our scholars would explain this, they would demonstrate this, especially the likes of Imam Nawawi and Imam Rafi'i, rahimahumallahu ta'ala, in books that the madhab uses as the fatwa book. So essentially the Minhaj al-Talibin and the various works around the Minhaj al-Talibin. So with that said, the Maghrib's waqt is actually one of those instances where this is very applicable. In the Jadid view, in the final view of Imam Shafi'i, Maghrib's waqt was limited to only the amount of time that it would take to prepare for the prayer and to pray 5 rak'ah, to basically pray the Maghrib prayer, and that's it. There's no more time for the Maghrib prayer thereafter, which is of course a very restricted duration, right? That's a few minutes only. This view is based on the tuition or the tutorial that Jibreel ﷺ offered Rasulullah ﷺ after the revelation of the prayers on the Isra and the Mi'raj. He came on the one day, he prayed the salah at the beginning of its waqt. He came on the second day, he prayed the salah at the end of its waqt for every of the 5 daily prayers. And he would say that the waqt, the time that it takes, is between these two. Now for Maghrib, it appears that he came at basically the same time on both days, giving the impression that Maghrib's waqt is only for the duration that it would take to actually pray Maghrib's waqt. But again, the scholars of the Shafi'i school had revised this view and advised that, look, this is the Jadid view of Imam Shafi'i, but the madhab is going to be according to the Qadim view, which is to say that Maghrib lasts until the waqt of Isha, as I explained it at the beginning of this answer, and that's where the answer remains. Barakallahu fikum. What we can learn from this, of course, is to consider the difference as khuruj min al-khilaf being sunnah. So whenever you have a different, a difference of opinion even between the same scholar, right? To try and live according to the more precautious view is always going to be praiseworthy. Not always, but under most circumstances, it's going to be praiseworthy. So this is one such instance. Now we know that there's a view that exists that Maghrib only has enough time to pray the 5 rak'at and to prepare for the salah, which is very short. With that in mind, a person who has the option of praying Maghrib at the earliest convenient time, meaning right at the beginning of the waqt, should hasten to do so and should not delay the salah for unnecessary reasons because its duration is very short. And based on the fact that there is an opinion that states that it's so short, it's only enough to really fulfill the prayer at the beginning of its time. Based on that, we should practice accordingly, and that would be the more precautious, the safer view. Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam.
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.